The International Longshoremen's Association just went on strike on the east and Gulf Coast of the United States.
I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
The decision comes after talks between the International Longshoremen's Association and shipping companies failed to reach a new contract.
Half of all shipping cargo coming in and out of the U.S. could be dead in the water, which could cripple our economy.
The walkout threatens to disrupt the entire U.S. economy and drive up prices for consumers.
Americans, just like you, could soon feel the impact on their wallets here with the national supply chain stopping in its tracks. Of course, the U.S. depends on these ports for machinery, fabricated steel, precision instruments, and so much more.
Businesses have also been stocking up on additional inventory in anticipation of a strike.
The overall daily impact of the strike is estimated to be as much as $4 billion per day. Basically, for every day of a strike, the estimates are it'll create about 1 week of congestion that has to be unwound. Back over to you.
This puts an immense amount of economic activity at risk. It puts an immense amount of jobs at risk. And it's important that we analyze what these people are asking for and what it means for the broader context of the economy. So 45,000 dock workers just walked out in the first strike of this magnitude in over 50 years. It's coming at a very intense time with the election in about a month, escalating geopolitical tensions, the holiday season approaching. This strike has coincided with a hurricane that has devastated the lives of millions of people. It's kind of the worst time to do a strike. There are 36 affected ports, and they handle over half of all trade volume in the United States. The economic loss, according to JP Morgan, could be between $3.8 billion to over $4 billion a day. A strike that lasts only a week could take about a month to clear. Like, this is really, really tense. And in this video, I want to talk about what the longshoremen are asking for, how the United States Maritime Alliance, who they're negotiating with, is going to respond, what the Biden administration is doing, how much this will cost, who will bear the cost, which is mostly you and I. So what are longshoremen? So longshoremen are the people that load and unload cargo from vessels in ports, harbors, and docks. It's a job that you can oftentimes be grandfathered into. It pays quite well, and they're extremely important for running the ports. The United States is primarily an import economy, so the things that we get from overseas into these ports are extraordinarily important. Walmart, for example, is one of the major companies that's impacted most by these strikes. And so the longshoremen are asking for higher wages, and they're also asking for a ban on automation. They're saying that they deserve higher wages because the companies that are running these ports have made billions and billions of dollars over the past couple of years, especially with the tenseness of the pandemic. The ban on automation is because their job can easily be automated. They're saying, hey, don't automate our job. Don't do that. And other countries have already automated longshoremen away, like China. Virtual longshoremen unload ships remotely with 5G, help supervise AI vehicles that automatically drive the containers to trucks and load them all remotely. US ports are already having a lot of problems with efficiency. We're about half as efficient as other major countries. And part of that is because the longshoremen have been blocking automation for a long time. The cost of that inefficiency is ultimately passed on to the consumer. And so they want a complete ban on the automation of cranes, gates, and container moving trucks. The main person and the ILA president is a man named Harold Daggett. He's a third-generation longshoreman member, and he clears over $700,000 a year. He owns a yacht and a Bentley. He has a long-standing relationship with President Trump, as it seems from pictures that are floating around of him online. And he's quite scary.
But today's world, it's changing into the future. They're not making millions no more. They're making billions. And they're spending it fast as they make it. I want a piece of that for my men. I'm not asking for the world. They know what I want. They know what I want. And if they don't, well, then I have to go into the street and we have to fight for what we rightfully deserve. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's gonna happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
The things that he's saying in these interviews are scary.
So that's why we're out here fighting for our livelihood.
What more from the automation do you want? What more protections could there be?
What more?
Yeah, they have language in there now.
Not strong enough, because what happens is they come in with new technology. We just caught them in Mobile, Alabama, called AutoGate, and that means the trucks are coming in and they're already checked in somewhere else and not using the checkers in the ILA. Circumventing the contract. They don't care. They don't care. It's not fair. And if we don't put our foot down now, they would like to run over us, and we're not going to allow that.
You are going to grind the economy to a halt here on the East Coast and the Gulf Coast.
No, not us. They are. Don't spin it now, because you're Fox News. They're going to drive it.
But are you worried?
They're going to drive it.
Are you worried that this
They
strike?
have the capital to settle this thing.
Are you worried that this strike is going to hurt the everyday American, the farmers that need to reach the export market? They're telling me that they're going to hurt through all of it.
He's saying that he is going to essentially crush everybody. He's going to cripple the economy. I'm going to get into like kind of this weird trade-off between automation and jobs.
People never gave a about us until now, when they finally realized that the chain is being broke now. Cars won't come in. Food won't come in. Clothing won't come in. You know how many people depend on our jobs? Half the world. And it's time for them and time for Washington to put so much pressure on them to take care of us, because we took care of them. And we're here 135 years and brought them where they are today, and they don't want to share.
But that's that. The ILA is like, hey, we want higher wages, but mostly we want to ban automation. The people that they're negotiating with is the United States Maritime Alliance, also known as USMX. These are the terminal operators and ocean carriers, the employers of the longshoremen. There's a little bit of monopoly going on here. This whole thing is like kind of a nightmare economically. The top 10 container ship lines have 90% market share, and not a single one is based in the United States. And so there's a lot of chatter about US representation from these terminal operators and ocean carriers, because one of the USMX board members, the Costco shipping representative, is under direct control of China, because that is a Chinese-based company. And so there's a lot of talk about what that could mean, where you have foreign interference with this union thing that's happening in the US. And also for the USMX, port strike is beneficial for profits. Based on prior port strikes, ocean carriers normally profit from soaring freight rates based on demand for other ports, and ocean spot rates have already increased quite a bit. But the United States Maritime Alliance has gone to the longshoremen union and they're like, hey, we're going to give you a 50% wage increase over the 6 years. We're going to triple employer contributions to retirement plans. We're going to enhance healthcare options. And we are going to maintain current contract terms regarding automation and semi-automation. And they're like, no. No to all of that because of the automation part. And this is where it gets difficult. If they want to ban on total automation, that's going to be extremely hard to negotiate. Bloomberg had a couple of really good paragraphs about this, talking about the US auto workers that went on strike last year, the Hollywood actors and writers who picketed before that. The nation's longshoremen are keen not only to improve their wages, but to protect their jobs from machines that can perform a growing number of tasks without human intervention. Meanwhile, employers at the ports view increased automation as necessary to their competitiveness and ultimate survival. The push-pull of technology raises deep questions about the timeframes each side is operating on. Workers concerned about job security will need to balance the near-term threats with longer-term risks. And employers that claim that they want to invest in automation for the sake of being competitive in the long run will need to decide how long they're willing to stay shut down because of it. So which is the bigger threat in the end for port workers? Robots that can scan trucks, stack containers, and transport goods, or a reflexive resistance to using them? We're seeing the answer play out now in a strike that could reduce GDP by an estimated $5 billion a day. So not only is this reducing GDP by an estimated $5 billion a day, but it's also impacting 600,000 other jobs. It's impacting $240 billion in goods. It's impacting the 48% of active pharmaceutical ingredients that are used in the US that are imported in from India. It's impacting billions and billions of dollars. It's impacting all of our lives because this could create massive, massive inflationary pressure. So why is this bad? This is bad because of rent seeking. These are 45,000 people that are putting 600,000 jobs at risk, putting billions and billions of dollars in trade at risk. They're putting people's health at risk. There's also global tensions. The closure of the Red Sea is not making global trade any easier. It's putting a lot of pressure on shipping. And there are no backup plans because certain aspects of shipping have been underfunded. The US Coast Guard is supposed to have contingency plans in place, but they have been overworked and underfunded. There was a merchant marine committee, which was helpful the last time that a strike like this happened, but that was closed down. And Biden has come out and said that he's not going to invoke Taft-Hartley. Taft-Hartley is a federal law that restricts the activities and power of labor unions. Basically, it gives the president the ability to come in and break it up. He said in a statement that workers do deserve higher wages, but the administration will be monitoring for any price gouging activity that benefits foreign ocean carriers, including those on the USMX board. He is not going to invoke Taft-Hartley. And even if he did invoke Taft-Hartley, it wouldn't work because according to Daggett, the workers will simply work slow. The longshoremen will simply do their job very slowly, so even if things do get broken up, it'll still be bad. So what's the broader impact of this strike? So the longshoremen are asking for higher wages and they're asking for a ban on automation. But when we zoom out, like really, really zoom out, let's take a look at the labor market. We just got a jobs report October 1st that showed that the hiring rate has really slowed. It's really hard to get a job right now. We knew that the labor market has been deteriorating, but we got more evidence today that has indeed slowed down quite a bit. We also got the Cleveland Fed nowcast for inflation, saying that inflation is about 2%. Great, awesome. If this strike continues, inflation will not be 2%. Global container rates are between $4,000 to $5,000 for a 40-foot container to ship from the US to Europe. It's peak season. There's also strike-related surcharges, and that's causing the cost of a container to rise $1,500 to $2,000. The rate has gone up 30 to 40% in just a few weeks. That inflation, that price pressure is going to be passed off to you and I, the consumer. So this strike is happening at a really bad time because of the state of the labor market and inflation. Inflation seems like it's going in the direction that everybody wants it to go, but this could be massively inflationary. And if it's massively inflationary, the Fed is going to have to respond by raising rates. If the Fed continues to raise rates, that could put further pressure on the labor market. And so this strike is problematic for a couple of reasons, one of which is the state of monetary policy. The second reason is the role of a Luddite. So there's a very excellent book called Blood in the Machine that talks about how in the late 1700s, 1800s, the Luddites responded to the introduction of sewing machines and all sorts of machinery. They did not like it. They were like, stop bringing in the machines. People need to have jobs.
Between 1811 and 1817, Lancashire cotton weavers, Yorkshire framework knitters, and Midlands croppers began attacking mills and smashing the labour-saving machinery they blamed for their hardships. They were called Luddites, after a fictional youth named Ned Ludd, who had reputedly been the first to smash the new machinery in a fit of rage. For some historians, though, Luddism was more than just an economic protest. It was an early expression of working-class political consciousness, as some demanded not just the removal of the machines, but the reform of Parliament as well.
Of course, the automation of sewing, other things that the Luddites were fighting against, was introduced anyway. And there's a couple of really interesting quotes in the book that I think can contextualize what the longshoremen are presumably fighting against. And I think this quote, "The biggest reason that the last 200 years have seen a series of conflicts between the employers who deploy technology and workers forced to navigate that technology is that we are still subject to what is ultimately a profoundly undemocratic means of developing, introducing, and integrating technology into society." So for context on the automation of jobs at the ports, one union-produced study found that robots eliminated 5% of port worker jobs on the West Coast. And so it's not like all the jobs are immediately going to be wiped out. 5% is still a significant number, but it's not like everything is going to be replaced automatically. But I think what was written in Blood in the Machine, that quote that I just read, is important because people are looking around at the automation that's happening and saying like, hey, I don't have a say in this, and like my entire livelihood is at stake. And I think that that is an appropriate response. I don't think it's a good response, but I think it's an appropriate response to the immense uncertainty that we're facing. Because when you look at companies like OpenAI today is still moving. They made an announcement about like speech to text or something like big at OpenAI was announced today. They were like, we're still doing AI stuff over here. Don't worry. And OpenAI is an interesting case study of automation and like what AI could look like. So I think that for these workers, they're looking around, they're like, okay, like, yeah, the jobs are going to be automated. Like things are going to trend in that direction, but we're going to stick our heels in the ground and prevent it from happening as much as possible. I don't think that's the right response. Like I think that for the net good, it would be better if the ports were automated, and obviously the ports are drastically inefficient, one might say, and they could use some help.
This is the world's largest automated container terminal, also hailed as the pioneer of intelligent unmanned ports worldwide. A colossal feat engineered by China with a staggering investment of $70 billion. Every autonomous guiding vehicle prowling the port is equipped with high-capacity lithium batteries, ensuring a relentless 8-hour operation on a single charge. But here's the kicker. These intelligent beasts come with self-diagnostic capabilities and real-time battery monitoring, ensuring that cargo remains on the move without any hiccups or unforeseen bottlenecks. It's undeniable that China's prowess in intelligent technology has emerged as the vanguard force propelling global industrial development.
The elevator operator strikes to prevent elevator automation led to elevator automation anyway. And this strike will probably be resolved within the next week. Ryan Peterson of Flexport places an 80% chance of that happening. I think what this strike is showing is like people are worried that there's no contingency plan in place for their jobs. There needs to be some sort of retraining, some sort of labor force support program for jobs that are automated away. There needs to be something, because like that makes sense to be scared. And of course, holding the entire global economy hostage is like not the thing that we want. But I think like when you look at profits and you look at the shipping companies and saying like, hey, like maybe give all of the workers of the shipping industry a little bit more money, not just the longshoremen. Yes, that makes sense. Some sort of facilitation plan of automation makes sense too. I think that quote from Blood in the Machine, where it's just undemocratic, it just feels like your life, your rug is being pulled out entirely from under you. It makes sense that we're seeing this. And it's going to get worse. This is a really strong union, but so it won't be like this for everybody. But if there is that threat of automation and AI, one can imagine that we will see strikes like this in the future. And the way that we should respond to that is by having a plan in place, especially for something as fragile as a supply chain. There has to be a conversation about like, okay, how are the jobs going to be protected? And what's the contingency plan for if the jobs have to be automated away? This is putting so many things at risk, like so many things that took years to solve, like inflation. It's putting the entire labor market at risk. And we have to have a plan for that. This is what's happening with the longshoremen and the USMX. This is a strike about automation. And what this should tell us is that we have to talk about what the consequences of automation are going to be and the plan for it in the future. And part of that is going to be retraining programs for people who are impacted by their jobs being automated away, perhaps some sort of money transfer to help support them for if they do lose their jobs, and then just a bigger conversation around what the heck these AI companies are doing, which all is happening, but it's all uncertain, and uncertainty creates massive ripples in the economy, as we're seeing. This is, of course, an ongoing story. I imagine, as I said, that they'll reach a negotiation at some point during the week, but if it continues, it could be inflationary, and I'll continue talking about it, as well as the many others. All my sources will be cited below. If you want to subscribe and like and share with a friend, that massively helps. I have a Substack, kyla.substack.com. I post on TikTok and Instagram Reels and LinkedIn, and I have a podcast, and I just wrote a book called In This Economy, How Money and Markets Really Work. I hope that you all are doing okay out there, and I'll talk to you very soon.